Wah. Hello. Hello everybody. How you guys doing? Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. We're nearing the end of our decade studies. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Off Kai in a week! Wow! I don't know what I'll do with this information. But hello. Yeah, we're gonna be doing our 1910s decade study today. It's kind of our penultimate one, because we started with the 1920s, went all the way up to the 2010s, then rewinded back to the 1900s, and now up to the 1910s. After the 1910s are done, I'm going to Offkai next week, which I'll also talk about once we get to class. But then after that, we're gonna go into the 2020s. The crazy time of the 2020s, or at least what we have of it so far. So and it's interesting because like the research that I had to do for the 1900s and the 1910s didn't feel like that much in comparison to hello harpsichord enjoyer. Hello. She hates us and is going to buy milk. No, not at all. I'm lactose intolerant. Well, let's see, harpsichord enjoyer, you got your stick in. Hello Mauser. Hello. But yeah, we are going to, we're gonna talk about the 2020s in a couple weeks. Isn't that crazy? We're not even done with the 2020s. So I don't know. Oh yeah, so the research I did for the 1900s and the 1910s didn't feel like that much, especially because I didn't have to have a whole section dedicated to pop culture. And it's not necessarily that those two decades didn't have pop culture, it's just that it didn't have to get filled up with all these movies and all of these, you know, records and like stuff like that. So it felt relatively simple. So it's gonna feel weird to go from the 1910s to the 2020s, where like even though we're not done with it, there's so much to talk about. We talked about this last stream. It's okay, we could talk about it again. It's all good. It's all good in the hood, as they say. Who was they? Who knows? But you know what? Let's who drew you as Steam Hams joke? Folk did. Folk Zauberer. He did. We did a whole stream on steamed hams. The art appreciation of steamed ham. I don't know why I said that with the list, but also good evening, church. But alright, let's get to class, shall we? Oh wait, no, just kidding. I need to set up my tracking first. I didn't do that. Give me a second. Watch me stall take a look at this. If I weren't stalling, could I do this? Wait, hold on. I was just gonna not do anything, but if I were stalling, could I do this? Alright, cool. Tracking is here. So, let's go ahead and get to class. Hello, everyone. Hello, it's me, Babinka Bear, your local Sun Bear art history teacher and educational streamer. And today, we're gonna be talking about the 1910s. The good old days. I hesitated to say the good old days. The decade after the aughts, you see. Cool redeem idea. Right? Isn't this such a cool redeem idea, you guys? I'm glad that I thought of it. I'm glad that me and only me thought of it. But hello. How you guys doing? It's Thursday. We're not playing any music, but we will. I just had trouble finding legit songs from the 1910s. Because if you try to look up Spotify, like if you try to look up 1910s, it'll give you music from the 1920s. Because apparently that's when, I don't know, like, great music came out. I don't know, ragtime came out in the 1900s, and jazz started becoming a thing in the 1910s, so, you know. But I listened to a little bit of this playlist, and definitely is like old-timey music to the point where you can hear the quality. I'll show you what I mean. It me. Alright. Like, can you hear the... you can hear the fuzz. Or I lowered it, so maybe you can't hear the fuzz, but it's this kind of music. But yeah, before we get started, we can yap for a little bit. Quite a few things have happened since then, since the last time I streamed, one of which is that I finished a lot of the work that I need to do with, you summon the cats. Hello, Matthew. And you got your sticker. But yeah, so I finally finished a lot of the work that I have to do for a upcoming Digimon concert. I think I talked about this last time, I drew a whole bunch of comics, and then just today I did one of my first pieces of short form content, but it was a pre-recorded video, so it was all, you know what, I'm not gonna spoil what it's about. If you are interested, you should check out Aria VT on August 1st, 7 p.m. PST. Aria VT, there we go, check her out. On specifically Saturday, August 1st at 7 p.m. PST, she'll be doing a Digimon-themed concert, which I was able to contribute to, and it was pretty fun. So now that I finished with that, I finished with my 2 comics, I finished with my short-form content, I'm free. I have actual free time, and the first thing that I do, of course, is I make it so I don't have free time. I opened up commissions. I opened up my comms. So yeah, if you are interested in a little doodad, a little piece of art from yours truly, do check that out. I am going to Offkai next week. I think that's like the big thing. This is what we call self-loathing, kids. A little bit. It's like not necessarily self-loathing, but it's like, I can't believe I have free time. This can't be. This can never be. How could I have free time? If I have free time, then the darkness will consume me. But yeah, so if you're interested in some commissions, you can check out my VGen page. I only have a few slots open because I don't know how much time I'll have to work on it before Offkai, but another thing with Offkai is that me and Beans, we decided instead of flying over to San Jose, we're gonna take the train. I'm not gonna say when we're taking the train, but we are taking the train, and it's a very long trip. So I will have time, provided that my iPad and everything is charged. I will have time to actually do some of those commissions. But I also suspect I'll probably get bored and, I don't know, listen to an audiobook or something. Train so comfy? It is. Me and Beans have only ridden it, I want to say once. Well, you know what? One time I used to be a external representative for one of my Filipino clubs in college, and I did have to take the train once to visit another Filipino org, like really far away from my location. So I did ride the train once before, but then afterwards, the only time I've ridden the train since then was when Beans and I went to San Diego. We went to San Diego, I think last year, the year before, I forgot, but we rode the train. It was nice. I think it was like 4 hours or something. This trip to San Jose is going to be a little bit longer. Just a little bit. Filipino Club marked off the bingo sheet. I know. Now we just have to wait for the Bruno Mars mention. We have Digimon mention already marked off of the bingo sheet. So there is that. HCTQW5. Hello, hello. We're going to be talking about the 1910s today, but we haven't started. I just be yapping. But yeah, the trip to Offkai is going to be a bit longer. It's going to be, I want to say most of the day, actually. So, I'm going to have a lot of time to do things. I might listen to an audiobook. We might watch some movies or some anime. I might do some commissions. So yeah. Does Bruno Mars is gay? The rumor comes out. You know what's funny is that, like, when I played a whole bunch of Bruno Mars music recently, I think it was Cielo or someone else, like, said that meme, and I had not heard of it before, so I was just like, what? Is Bruno Mars gay? and then they showed me the meme, and I was like, oh, I see. I see. Yeah, I love Bruno Mars. I'm gonna be seeing him in concert. But yeah. The next big thing that I'm excited for is Offkai. That's gonna be happening next week. Wow! Offkai in a week! Can you believe it? Am I prepared? Not really. However, I did just put in an order for business cards. I kind of threw something together real nice. I'm not gonna show what it looks like yet. Maybe the last stream before Offkai I will, but yeah, I have business cards coming in. I have sticker designs, and it's actually my scratch and sniff of stickers. You know, the ones that show up when you do your 1-point redeem. So I have that as a design, and then I might design some other stickers tomorrow if I don't have any commissions to work on. The only thing is, I'm kind of going to be doing this last minute because I do have it's not a Cricut, but it's a silhouette machine, aka like the thing that cuts out stickers for you. And I tried to do this last year, but I really did it last minute and didn't realize that one of my blades had already dulled. So I had to like rush order a new blade, and it came in just in time, but like something else was wrong with the machine, so I couldn't cut my stickers in time. So this time I'm giving myself a week head start. I probably should have given myself a month head start, but you know, didn't think that one through. So we'll see if I'm able to bring some stickers to Offkai. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Because, you know, I have a week. I have all of tomorrow. I am technically on the clock tomorrow. Oh, the song's a little loud. I do like the vibes of some of these songs, though. Yeah. Technically I'm on the clock tomorrow, but I really just have to answer emails. There's not much going on at work during the summertime, so it's all good in the hood. We'll see what happens. But my backup too is I do have something ready to go, which is stamps. A while back, for those that might remember or might not remember, I got really into carving rubber stamps. I think I did an art stream of that, but I've been carving a lot of rubber stamps, and I carved one for myself. One of them is in my usual style, and another one is in like kind of like a 1990s, you know, edutainment kind of style. I'll see if I can post some pictures on the Discord or something. You just got a ride for one of the out-of-state cons you're going to this year. Nice! Nice! I'm glad. The plans are kind of falling into place, right? I don't know, something about that feels nice. When it's like, for example, like I feel like a lot of people are talking about Offkai on social media right now, so I'm like getting hyped for it, you know? Like I planned out what what panels I want to go to. I usually plan out like which artists I'm gonna look at for Artist Alley. I haven't done that yet, so wish I had Offkai money too. I know it could be quite pricey, right? Nothing else important happening next week, huh? I haven't announced it yet. Should I announce it right now? Should I announce it right now? I can if you want. I usually announce it. Gundam TCG TCG Set 5 release, obviously. That too. But I'll just go ahead and say it if it's okay. But me and George are also collabing next week. Next Monday. Do-do-do-do-do! Yippee! Wahoo! That's right, we are collabing. We've been wanting to collab for a while, but something always came up. Like on either one of our sides. For me, I was just busy. And then for him, he had computer stuff. But then, if you guys have checked out George's channel recently, his computer's working just fine. In fact, hold on. George Chungish. You should check out George's channel right now. You might see a guy that looks a little too moe. just a little too much. But yeah, we're gonna be collabing on Monday. Monday. We're gonna be doing some art appreciation, but for animation. Gap moe. You know what? Yeah. You know what? That is kind of gap moe. I would say that, yeah. Because then you go to his channel and it's like, wow, he's so moe, and then he starts talking about slurs. And then he starts talking, and then his redeems are really bomb though. You guys should check out the redeems. But I don't know, has anyone seen a good artist around recently? Has anyone seen a good artist? Or look, watch this. I'm gonna do my best George impression. Wait, hold on. Wait, give me a second. I have to set this up. Give me a second. Can I just paste an image here? Which from Mercury reference? Can't you see I'm short? See, isn't that such a good impression? Ah, dang, I have to save the image. Okay. Let's just hope this isn't WebP. God freaking... Okay. Is this one WebP? Save image. Okay, cool. It's a PNG. Give me a second. Okay, look, this is my impression of George Chungus. Wow! Oh dang it! The layer. Give me a second. There we go. No, I'm shrinking the whole thing. This is so scuffed. There we go. Wow! Why is the image also moving? Look, why is the screen cap also moving? Hello? Too fast? Wait, why is it doing that? I was like, wow. There we go. Is it moving because it's too fast? Is that what's happening right now? All right, let's take that out before it does additional damage to my assets. Can't you see I'm blazing? In my heart I'm blazing. But yeah, anyway, check out George. Don't make me tap the sign. We have a sign at school. Get it? Instead of we have food at home. We have a tap the sign at school. We also have... Oh, I think I fixed the TTS, by the way. I think I fixed Pancakes' voice. He should be audible now. I tested it out before stream. And the flooding. I think I fixed the flooding as well, but we'll see. We'll see, huh? Yeah, let's see, what else did I want to yap about before we get started? A new Digimon app game came out. I was really excited for it, and then I installed it.
Hatsune Miku is not AI.
He speaks the truth! Wait, did you guys hear it? I heard it. I heard it loud and clear. Did you guys hear it? I only assumed that you heard it because his mouth was moving. I didn't actually see the OBS bar move because I have a small setup here. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know. But anyway, yeah. So there was a new Digimon app called Digimon Up. It released on Wednesday, and people were pretty excited about it, myself included. But then we did hear through the grapevine that it was an idle game, not an idol game, not IDOL, but an IDLE idle game. And I don't think I've ever played an idle game, so I was like, it's Digimon, and I'm a Digimon fan. We'll play it, right? We'll play it. I downloaded it Wednesday morning, played it on the train to work, or the subway, idols. I played the game on the subway to work, and I was pretty disappointed. Whoa! Bakun, start running your way. Bakun. So kind of like a Tamagotchi. No, I would like if it was a Tamagotchi. Like, I would have vastly preferred if it was a Tamagotchi. I would have preferred if there was any kind of like taking care of a creature, like training it, feeding it, like sending it into battle, because that's like the essence of Digimon. Like Digimon was initially made as like Tamagotchi for boys, because it's like, oh, Tamagotchi, you can take care of things, but it's Digimon, so you can make them fight each other. Because clearly only guys like that, right? Yeah, I would have preferred something like that. In fact, I think that's what everyone expected it to be, was like an app where it's basically like the V-Pets, where you like raise your Digimon. And I think one of the like cool things about Digimon and Tamagotchi is like the branching evolution. So if you don't take care of your Digimon properly, it turns into like something gross or weak. It turned into a Numemon, but the thing is, I love Numemon. I think they're adorable. Anyway, but if you like raise up your Digimon well, it could turn into something really strong and awesome, right? So that's kind of the charm of Digimon and Tamagotchi. This game doesn't even have that. This game doesn't even have that. It's an idle game, as in you just like... let me paint the picture for you. Like, as soon as you log into the game, you're already in combat. Like, the first thing they ask you is to like hatch an egg, and your Digimon within like 2 seconds of hatching is already like battling infinitely with different enemies before you even get the tutorial, before you even realize like what's going on. So like, luckily your Digimon does have like pretty good HP and your enemies don't hit as hard, but they're just like infinitely battling. And there's no input from you. Well, actually, when you start it, there is a little bit of input. You have to tap a little thing, and it generates like XP for you. But then once you level it up, I think like once or something like that, then there's an auto feature in which you don't have to tap anything. There's no input from you at all. Like, it's completely idle, as in like you could just keep your phone on like a standee, and it'll just keep infinitely fighting and like destroying Digimon, and the Digimon don't even give you XP. The XP comes from like you tapping the thing or putting it on auto mode. Destroying the Digimon gives you more like, like game bucks, like in-game currency in order to tap the thing, It's, I don't know, I just don't like it. And it's like, dang, like, I feel like, yeah, Digimon's not as big of an IP as, like, Pokemon, right? Like, what IP is that big? But, like, I expected a little bit more from Digimon, Like, this is the same franchise that brought us, like, Time Stranger and, like, all the anime and all of that. And, like, in terms of video games, like, y'all really couldn't do anything else other than an idle game? Like... Because, like, I feel like a lot of people... Like I said, I feel like people would have been happy if it was just an app that was essentially just Tamagotchi, right? But, of course, that's not gonna make the big bucks. The big bucks all goes to, like, gacha game. Which, by the way, this also has gacha game mechanics. Like, you essentially have to roll for, like... Not your partner Digimon, because, like, that partner Digimon is kind of decided at the beginning of the game. But you have, like, little partners that fight alongside your Digimon. You could also have like a buddy that fights alongside you. So I have like Tai from the first season. Hello, Shiopi. I'm ranting about the newest Digimon app. Who, like, as a Digimon fan, I'm so disappointed in, if I'm being honest. So yeah, like, you do roll for like, ways to make your Digimon stronger. And initially you do get a little bit of a dopamine hit. It's almost like when you play Cookie Clicker or something of that sort, where like, the further you get into the game, you get these like little add-ons that make clicking so much easier, or that like make number go up much easier, but then the next milestone is just a higher number, you know? So you do get like a little bit of like dopamine from that, but it feels so cheap. It doesn't feel like a good dopamine hit. Hello, folk. Hello. Talking about the Digimon app. Digimon Up. And my issues with it. So yeah, it's an idle game. Basically the whole game amounts to like watch your Digimon endlessly fight. You can roll for stronger things, but that's kind of it. And there's other mechanics too that do make it a little bit cooler. Like you can grow meat from a meat garden and feed it to your Digimon. The thing is there's so many different kinds of like in-game currency, and they all like count for different things. And I looked at it and I'm just gonna say it's not for me. No, yeah, 100%. Which like you're better than me though, because like with all the ranting I'm doing, I'm still playing it. Like I'm still playing it. It's just that like I'm like unhappily playing it until I can get my Digimon to like Mega, because right now I have a Palmon. Actually, she's a Togemon now, so I kind of want to like see what happens once I level her up to Rosemon. Assuming it'll go to Rosemon, right? Because in the anime, she never got to Rosemon until Tri came out. Hate playing? Yeah. Yeah, so meat gardens are a thing in the Digimon games. Going all the way back to Digimon World 1, where like, yeah, for some reason the world has a meat garden where like literally one of the plant Digimon is growing a garden and there's little like cartoony, you know, like bone-in meat is growing out of the ground. So like, and that's what you use to like feed your Digimon. So that's been a thing. So I kind of like that they held on to that. You know, I kind of like that that's still like a cute little mechanic. There's also training. You could train your Digimon. But I don't know, like all around it just feels like such a brain dead game. And maybe it's also because I'm not usually like I've never played an idle game before. So like this is my first foray into it, and it's like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I hate that like really there's nothing you need to do. And I get why like people would like it if they don't have a lot of time in their hands, or like they're busy and stuff like that, and you still want to also hello Peck School. Talking about Digimon Up. Like I get why people would like it, but I think it's definitely not for me for the aforementioned reasons. And yet I'm still hate playing it. I just want my little Togemon to become a Rosemon, and then we'll see what happens from there. I predict that I'm probably not going to be playing it by like next week, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe the tides will change and whatnot. But yeah, that's how I feel about Digimon Up. What else have I been doing? What else have I been up to lately? Yeah, making that short form content for the Digimon concert that I was talking about earlier, it did make me more inspired to make more short form content, or just more like pre-edited, pre-done content in general. And it did give me an idea for like a series of things that I can do. Unfortunately, I can't reveal what that is just yet, but know that things are cooking. Things are cooking. So yeah, that's what's up. I can't think of, I feel like there are other things that I wanted to yap about, but I can't think of anything right now. We are doing the 1910s for our decade study. This is our second to last decade study, because after this, next week is Offkai. Week after that is 2020's decade study, and then we're done. We're done with the decade studies. I'm trying to think of what I want to do once we're done with the decade studies. Like, I think earlier someone mentioned like, oh, what if you do like a time guesser tournament? I do think that would be cute, right? But I also kind of want to make like either a cheat sheet, or I want to do like shortened versions of my decade studies just for like easier consumption, you know? That way, like, you know, we can have a period where people like study up, and then we have like a time guesser tournament where we see who recalls the most, right? Or maybe some kind of Kahoot. We'll keep it school themed. Yeah, that's what's on the docket. But you know what? Without further ado, we're 30 minutes in. Let's go ahead and do half of our dailies. We're not going to be doing Time Guesser until the end, but we are going to be doing Anthropium and Daily Hue. Yo, Nap, hello. Decade studies for the 1800s, 1700s? I don't know if I got that in me. I don't know if I got that dog in me. I think I might just cut it after 2020, after we're done with this one in the 2020s, you know? 20th century or bust. and a smidge of 21st. But we'll see. We'll see, because like I think I would want to do that, not for the intent of like guessing it on any kind of like extended time guesser, but maybe for the art. Maybe for the art, because like, you know, I still don't know like what's that song? What comes after 4? I can only count to 4. I can only count to 4. Like it's not that I don't know what comes after 4. It's like I don't know what happens after the Renaissance and before the modern era. Like I know there's like Baroque art, there's Mannerism, there's Romanticism, and question mark? I don't know what happens after that. Napoleon's in there somewhere with was it I was about to say Jean-Michel, not Jean-Michel, but Jacques Louis David. There we go. The guy who painted Napoleon's portrait is Jacques Louis David. Gotta learn about 1700s car designs. It's funny, when I was doing the decade study for the 1900s, I was like, dang it, I need to do one for the 1890s, because so much of this depends on the 1890s. And then I have a feeling if I were to do the 1890s, I'm gonna be like, dang it, I need to do the 1880s. Let's see, if the art is broke, why didn't anyone ever fix it, right? America happens at some point? Nah. You know what's funny with Filipino American history? A lot of times people start the timeline at it was during Spanish colonization, because the first Filipinos that came over to the land that would eventually become the United States, they came over to what was essentially New Spain, Nueva España. But that's basically where like California is now. So like a lot of Filipinos will say that like, or a lot of Filipino Americans would be like, oh, the Filipinos were here before the Americans were here. Which is true. Before it was even America, like there were Filipinos on this soil. But recently I've been like kind of like unsure about that saying, because I feel like it kind of overlooks the whole fact that there were indigenous people also living here at that time. But you know what? That's neither here nor there. Lost count again. I can only count to 4. I can only count to. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200. Skip straight from the 2020s to prehistoric art, which would be cool. I think that's another thing with like the decade studies originally started as a branching path from or a spin-off of my style studies. And my style studies were basically an opportunity for me to study a specific art style and either try to imitate it or just learn more about it. And I do have some style studies in mind. Neolithic art would be cool, but I kind of like Fauvism. We talked about Fauvism when we were looking at the 1900s. No wait, that's Expressionism. Fauvism is basically just like playing a lot with color, right? So I don't know, I might want to do a style study on Fauvism. After what we did last stream on Monday with like imitating like Rothko's art, I might want to do something called like MS Paint Modern Art, where it's like just me recreating different like modern art styles with MS Paint. There's a great exhibit at the Smithsonian American. Yeah, I know about that. It's funny because like a lot of people in my personal life have been sending me information about that. And it's funny because I think a Filipino American museum opened up in Vegas, and I also got a lot of people being like, hey Binka, check this out. And you know what sucks? This is like me and Beans were kind of on the fence on like going to Vegas for Evo, and we decided not to. But if we had, then a part of me would have been like, ooh, let's go visit the Filipino American Museum. But alas, it was not meant to be. 'Twas not meant to be, unfortunately. But yeah, there is a an exhibit at the Smithsonian American. There's also one at the Fowler Museum. It's a very small museum on the campus of University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA. You know what? Everyone knows what UCLA is. Why did I say it like that? But yeah, there's a museum there, and they specialize in non-Western art, which I love. Like, we need more museums like that. But I love that museum a lot. I've dropped by a couple of times, and all of their exhibits are really cool. That's what those letters mean. You know, I tried to explain like certain universities that I'm aware of, like the CSU and the UC system, right? So I feel like I have to say it all out loud just in case there's people who don't know. But I was like, you know what? People know Berkeley. People know like UCLA. I don't think I need to explain that. But yeah, so the Fowler Museum, they also have a exhibit based on specifically the Ifugao people, which are the like people that live in the mountains, and they were able to hold on to a lot of their culture even after colonization. So I haven't seen that exhibit yet, but I'm hoping to do so within the next couple weeks. But yeah. See, I do have some things planned for after the decade studies are done. So I might do this like MS Paint modern art thing. I might look at different art styles. Maybe Neolithic would be cool to go into, actually. Like Neolithic and Paleolithic art. Trying to think of what else. Let's see. A lot of the styles that I've been studying for these decade studies, like mid-century modern, has also been pretty nifty. Like the like 50s atomic age style art. I've that's been growing on me as well. So yeah. Ideas. But with that out of the way, let's go ahead and do some dailies, at least the first half of it, and then we'll get into our decade study. You schleb now. Good night. Good night, Mauser. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you. Get some rest. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is by Mary Cassatt. This is called Little Girl in Blue Armchair. I'm not super familiar with Cassatt's art, but I have seen another artwork of hers. It's like a mom bathing like her baby, and it's such an adorable just piece of art. Like you get like the tenderness in their facial expressions, and it's so cute. And I feel like this is kind of similar. So let's see. What color could this armchair be? It's called Little Girl in Blue Armchair, so I'm gonna say purple and hope for the best. Nah, okay. The only thing is, what shade of blue? Could it be like closer to a turquoise blue, or do you think it could be closer to like a deeper ocean blue, right? I think we also need to play around with the saturation. I do think it needs to be desaturated. And then lightness. Oh, I'm not sure. I feel like it's somewhere near the middle. Let's try this one. 66. So not starting off too strong yet. Saturation needs to go up a lot. Maybe here in the middle. Lightness could also afford to go a little bit darker. And then saturation, or no, hue could go a little bit, maybe closer to turquoise. Right, like something here. Oh, it's almost like a Hatsune Miku color. Well, actually, any teal or turquoise is like practically Hatsune Miku colors, but submit guess. Okay, we lucked out. Hue is correct and saturation is correct. So now we just have to find the lightness. So we lucked out pretty quickly. This looks pretty legit, right? Kind of like a lighter Hatsune Miku. Yeah, maybe something like this. Submit guess. We're 96. We're pretty close. We're pretty darn close. Oh, you know what? Ah, there we go. Perfect! Another thing I forgot to mention is that Beans and I are one episode away from finishing Better Call Saul. Like, we're watching the last episode tonight, and it's been crazy! It's been crazy taxi! I can't wait to watch that last episode, and then we'll, for anyone else who has seen it before, we'll yap about it, because there's so much to yap about. And it's funny because, like, one of my bosses, like my boss's boss, we had a one-on-one recently, or actually, well, we have a one-on-one like every so often, and I want to say like about a year or two ago, she was like, "Oh, you have to watch Better Call Saul. It's so good." Let me post this. There we go. And I didn't watch it. Me and Beans only started watching it like maybe a month or two ago, and she's right. It's so good. It's so good. Like the writing is amazing. Like, you know, the writing is good when like the person, like the protagonist is like questionably a protagonist, you know, like they're definitely like an anti-hero, but you can immediately understand, or at least with enough like episodes in your pocket, you can see how they would think what they're doing is the right thing. You know, does that make sense? Where it's like, yo, posies and potatoes, hello, thank you for joining the class. My name's Bibinka Bear. I'm your local Sun Bear art history teacher and educational streamer. And today we're going to be learning about the 1910s, but before we do that, I'm just playing some of my favorite daily games. in order to get good at oh, we're not gonna do time guesser, in order to talk about art and stuff like that. So this is the second daily that we're gonna do. We're gonna do Anthropium. For those not 100% sure on what this is a game where you are given a photo of a artifact and you have to guess where and when it's from. And all of this is, I believe, from the Met collection. So let's go ahead and get started. I haven't done this for like 2 days because I've been so busy with the work and I kind of just forgot. But okay, this is looking Polynesian, I want to say, or Inuit. If you like zoom in really closely, these kind of like organic lines, they look like zoomorphic. They look like some kind of like bird or maybe some kind of sea animal, but like this is reading to me as like some kind of bird, because like I'm thinking this is like a wing and maybe this is like a long craning neck, so maybe it's some kind of like stork or crane, you know. But the curving features kind of remind me a little bit of like Inuit art. Oh, there's more on the back over here. This is reminding me of like Polynesia. Definitely like non-Western, definitely not indigenous. So it's either gonna be somewhere like up here or somewhere down here. I'm kind of thinking closer to Polynesia. And because this is walrus ivory? Just kidding. I think that's Inuit then, isn't it? Wait, actually, where are walruses native? Oh, dang it. Okay, I'm pretty sure with all the blubber that walruses have, I want to say that's like more so Inuit First Nations, right? So let's just put it here. And then let's put it closer to like the 1500s. Submit guess. Nice. We got it. Starboy, hello, hello. So this is Old Bering Sea 3 Native American. Cool, cool, cool. We could have also put it somewhere up here in Alaska. Oh, because Bering Sea is like right here. It's the sea that separates Russia from America. Hello, Starboy. Hello, hello. Let's see. This is a harpoon counterweight. It's made out of walrus ivory. Technologically sophisticated, the harpoon was an essential tool for hunting on the Bering Sea. Carvers used walrus ivory to make the components of the long spear-like instrument, including its counterweights or stabilizers, sometimes referred to as winged objects due to their shape. The elegant sculptural form of this example is complemented by the engraved curvilinear designs, and the top and outer edges may be inscribed with animal features. Ah, we called it, right? This kind of looked like a bird to me. Okay. What are we learning today? Great question. We're going to be learning about the 1910s today. We're doing our 1910s decade study, and this is actually our second to last decade study. And in about 2 weeks, we'll be jumping forward in time all the way to the 2020s because we've already done every other decade. In fact, I was pretty proud of this. If we zoom out, this is the entirety of our decade study. And as you can see, there's just one more blank spot. That is the 2020s. So we have the 1900s over here, the 1910s. We started with the 1920s into the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Where's the 80s? Oh, here. The 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. Oh, no, wait, where's the 2000s? Where'd it go? Where is it? Here, the 2000s and the 2010s. And then we restarted at the 1900s. But once we're done with 1910s, we're going all the way forward to the 2020s. So that's going to be quite a big jump. Can't wait to learn about what the rest of the 2020s has to offer. I know, right? I'm going to be doing a little bit of divination for the stream. For my research, we'll be doing a little bit of divination. I'll be consulting my tarot cards and finding out what else the 2020s has in store for us, right? It's funny because I joke, but I do like tarot a lot. So, but I don't think it can predict the future. I think it's just a fun thing to introspect and be like, where's my mind at right now? But if you ask the cards about the future, they'll smack you right in the face. I've actually seen it happen. The one thing I will argue though is that like doing these decade studies, it does feel like not necessarily that you can predict the future, but like you do see a bit of a trend with like every single decade is a reaction against or a reaction to the decade that came before, right? So if like the 2010s was a very kind of like hopecore kind of clap stomp, and then 2020s was like, oh, and like a lot of like kind of progressive ideas, and the 2020s was kind of a reaction against that, then the 2030s will be a reaction against that. So yeah, maybe I'm just coping, but that's what I think. But let's continue with Anthropium. Oh, this is a little older than I thought. But next one, we have some white porcelain. Mayhaps this is Kowlin. There is an animal on top. It looks like a sheep, but it could also be any other kind of like hoofed animal, right? But because it's white on with blue ink, it could be Chinese porcelain. But I remember wasn't there a style in like Austria or something that like imitated it, or Iran, I want to say, because this also actually the style looks like it could also be Chinese. I'm not sure. So this is white porcelain decorated with blue under the glaze. Should we say China? This almost feels like too straightforward. Like I feel like it's one of the places that like really tried to imitate Chinese porcelain, right? But let's find out. China, Europe, or West Asia. Place your bets. It's Japan! It was none of the above. It was Japan. Interesting. So this is an incense burner with cover. Incense burners such as this were usually placed in the tokonoma alcove of a room, both to scent the room and as decorative artwork. Oh, cool. Okay. Next round. Ooh, interesting. So we have some art that looks East Asian. The hairstyle looks Chinese. Like this looks like kind of like the traditional like hairstyles that you would see in like really old Chinese works. But what's tricky about a lot of these works that look Chinese is that they could also easily be like early Korea or Japan, right? So like I kind of want to say it's China because of the hairstyle. I don't know, it reminds me of like my grandma is all into like Chinese aesthetics and stuff, so she has a lot of like was it qipao, and she has some like goods that look Chinese. So like I don't know, that's what that reminds me of. But is this gonna be the second time that I guess China and it's actually another East Asian country? Did someone say old Chinese? No, I said old Korean and old Japanese looks like Chinese. like the art. Cause like I'll see was it Hanzi? And I'll be like, oh, obviously it's not Korea and Japan, and it'll be like, nope, it is. It is Korea and Japan. Okay. Because this is organic material, let's go ahead and put it after the 1500s. Submit guess. It's Japan again! You gotta be freaking kidding me! I can't believe I got juked twice in a row. In a row. Can you believe it? I'm kinda weak. The detail of the patterns of the fabric being hidden behind the folds. Oh. Yeah, cause like even like anime nowadays does this, where like they don't really like overlay the texture on top of the folds of the clothing. Sometimes they just like put the texture on it and the texture just stays stationary as the character moves. I remember like what studio was it? Shaft used to do that all the time, right? I'm not saying that's a giveaway, I'm saying that's so cool. Yeah, right? I like that detail, especially like anything with gold. I like gold. Anything with like gold decoration is really cool in my book too. Okie dokie, moving on. That's cuneiform. That's straight up cuneiform. With clay. Yeah, this is straight up cuneiform. So these are like wedged shapes that make up like the writing system of ancient Mesopotamia. The only thing is, this could be Neo-Assyrian, which is like not as old but still pretty old, or it could be like all the way to the dawn of humanity. And Nasir strikes again. I'm actually trying to learn how to read cuneiform, but it's really hard because like you're really just going off of like kind of like the same shapes over and over again. and you basically just have to memorize it. With something like, for example, like Filipino baybayin, all the shapes are kind of distinct enough from each other that it's a little bit easier to memorize. But these ones, like, because it's the same wedge shape over and over again, it's hard. Like, it's so hard. So I'm kind of putting that on the back burner because I do want to improve reading Cyrillic, like Russian writing, and Japanese too, but also ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. I have a book on learning how to read it, so I want to get better at that before I even try to take a stab at cuneiform. So Aya Nisir will unfortunately have to wait, but let's put this over here at Babylon. And then let's just assume it's really old. Let's say it's 2000, before 2500 BCE. So submit guess. It's later. It's later. We got the area right though. It is Babylonian. There we go. And it's a cuneiform tablet, distribution of barley from Mesopotamia, Old Babylonian, circa 1614 BCE. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, what is this? Very ornate. What's the medium before I check more? This is copper alloy and it's gilt, aka it has gold. Yeah, it has some like gold on here, like kind of overlaid on it. Interesting. This section kind of reminds me of like South America. Like some of the shapes here remind me of South America. I was gonna say it could be China, but like, don't tell me I'm gonna get freaking like, you know, I'm gonna get fooled for like a third time thinking it's China when it's actually Japan. This looks like a face, right? Kind of like this looks like a brow, and then two eyes, and then kind of like a scowling, frowning face over here. Yeah, this one specifically feels like South American. Like it's kind of like the this like spiral shape and then the lines here, but I'm not entirely sure. You know, let's just try it out. Hear me out. Could this be a drum, like those Caribbean drums? Oh, do we have any pics of the underside? No, it looks like it's resembling like a turtle shell, right? Oh wait, do you mean like those humongous ones? The ones that make kind of like a metallic sound to it? I think I know what you mean. So then it could still be, you know, like Americas, so maybe Caribbean. Wait, let's do halfway. Let's do Costa Rica. Cuz I feel like it's here, maybe South America. But like yeah, those like kind of Caribbean yeah, kind of like a gong, but you kind of like just put your hand over it and like there's still friction. You have to still apply friction in order to make that like kind of like resonating sound. But I'm not sure. Let's say let's see, Honduras, Costa Rica. Let's say Costa Rica. And then let's say 1000 CE. I'm just taking a wild guess. Take a guess. Ooh, no, wrong side of the world. It's a oval brooch. It's a brooch. It's Viking. Whoa. We got the timing right, but we were completely wrong in terms of the location. Wait, let me take a look at this again. Man, that... I was totally convinced that this was like Mesoamerican or South American. I don't think I would have been able to guess that at all. I mean, when I first saw that it was very ornate, I did vaguely wonder if it was like Celtic. But I wasn't 100% sure. So not really one guide if we were all misled, right? Alright, next round. That looks Greek. Wait. Or is it Latin? I'm actually not sure, because... I mean, it looks like it's based either in Greek or Latin. Like, this looks like a lambda, right? And then this is nu. This looks like it could be like the g sound in Cyrillic. I'm actually not entirely sure. Wait, some of this is a little bit more readable. Because like here is a little... Oh wait, you know what? Oh, you know what? It's because of like the strokes that I'm having trouble. I think this says something like Hadrin something Santo, but this one's a little bit more clearer. This is like Latin actually. Imp, what's this? Impius div halder. Lake Course Sense. Like this looks Latin, right? This looks Latin. Here we go. Romano Viorno? Miso Vornims. Yeah, this seems like it'd be Latin. When did we come up with spaces to differentiate the words? That's a good linguistic question. I'm actually not entirely, or even like a graphemics question, right? Looks like a similar sentence structure to Italian, so my guess is some sort of fancy Latin thing. Yeah, it could be, right? I kind of want to guess like Roman Empire, but it could also like Roman Empire is big. Like it could go all the way up to France or like Great Britain and down into Spain. But you know what? Let's try it out, because sometimes when it comes to Roman Empire stuff, this game is very like forgiving, where like you'll put Rome, but it was actually like Great Britain, but you're still right, you know? I understood Adrian versus Santoni versus something. Ah, okay. But yeah, to answer your question about the spaces, I do remember seeing a video on it, but I don't remember like when exactly that became a thing. So, let's say here, Roman Empire. Nice, yeah, it is Roman. So yeah, see, I put it here at Rome, but if it was like, you know, British Rome, I still would have gotten the point. Because all of this was considered Rome. So this is a bronze military diploma. We also have an ad break coming up. So I'll read this and then we'll move on to the next round, and I'll put you guys in the cub corner. So these tablets record that in 149, Antonius Pius granted Roman citizenship to and the right to legal marriage to discharge veterans of foreign birth who had served for 25 years in auxiliary units. I can't read today. It's hard for me to read today. But alright, we do have a ad break coming up. This feels like it is French and maybe French Revolution. Let's see if we could just like knock this out right now before we go on to the ad break. Oh, Roman. Oh no, Florentine. It's Cosimo de Medici. But we got the time period, so I'll go ahead and put you guys in the cub corner, and I'll see you guys in a little bit. We are back. We're so back. And this music is very, very happy and whimsical. Very, very like, you know, march to the beat of your own drum, you know? But alright, I got some water. Let me take a quick sip one more time, and then we'll get back into the Anthropium before we jump head first into our decade study. So give me a second. Is this phonograph music? It sounds like it, right? Like there's kind of like this weird distortion to it, this like kind of fuzziness to it. It definitely sounds like it, so I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, right? Because I think all the music in this playlist have had that like sound to it. But good question. But yeah, so our last result on here was this is a Florentine sculpture of Cosimo de' Medici. I would have thought it was Shakespeare, I'm gonna be honest. But I kind of see it. It's funny because me and Beans have been like talking about Assassin's Creed lately because he's been playing the fourth one, the remaster or the remake. And we were watching a video like rating all of the current Ass Creeds, and it like brought me down memory lane, and I'm like, oh man, I should play some of them again. Looks like Tim Curry. Wait. Oh my god, you're right. The one place uncorrupted by capitalism. Space. I'm gonna be lurking if I don't appear in chat again. Have a lovely stream. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good lurk, Starboy. And yeah, we'll be learning about the 1910s today, so no worries at all. No worries at all. Thanks for letting me know. Have a good one. Okay, let's get on to the next one. This is cuneiform again. Huh. 2 cuneiforms all in one day. Very interesting. Maybe this is the same era, right? 1600s? BCE? And then over here in Babylon? Here, Babylon? Submit guess? Yeah! Oh no, this is even later. So this is a cuneiform tablet promissory note for Silver Egibi archive. And this is circa 548 BCE. Oh wow. The thing is, the wedges all look very similar to each other, so it's a bit hard for me, at least at the level that I'm at, to tell the difference. But this is basically, I want to say like 1100 years after the first one that we saw today. So let's keep on keeping on. This is round 9. Nice chicken! Wait, this is so ornate. What is this metal? Is this copper? It's brass. And it's like a photorealistic chicken. Well, not photorealistic, but like there's no stylization of like the proportions, right? It looks like a chicken. That's not a chicken, that's a randon. Nice rooster. I'm wondering like what place would have like a more realistic looking chicken, right? I'm very tempted to say Benin. I'm very tempted to say Benin City, Nigeria. Especially because it's brass, right? There's even a city called Ogun, and isn't that one of the deities of, like, metalwork, right? Let's say 1500. So make it. Yeah! Called it! Let's freaking go! And it's Edo peoples. Cool! So, it looks like when they do statues of people, it's a little bit more stylized, but when they do statues of animals, it's a little bit more realistic. Very nice. Roosters are the national bird of France. So does that mean they're just like, oh, nice cook? When in doubt, go for Benin. Exactly. All right. Last round. Interesting. Not 100% sure with this one. It could also be Polynesian, but there's something about this like kind of like star shape that has me second guessing. Like a part of me wants to say like Byzantine. What is this? Copper alloy inlaid with silver wire and niello on an iron core. I feel like we've heard niello on iron core before. I feel like Rome? But stylistically, yeah, I was gonna say Polynesian, but like it's these star shapes that like I feel like you don't see that much. I could be wrong, but let's just guess Rome once again. Yeah, I remember we like learned about Niello before, but right now it's bringing up a blank for me. Should we research it right now? I'm scared that that's gonna give us the answer. So let's just answer this, and we'll look it up. Ah, it's Anglo-Saxon. It's a sword pommel. But let's look it up. Niello, or would it be pronounced Niello? No, actually, it's British, so it'd be Niello, right? It's British. Let's see. Oh, yeah, we did look this up before. This looks fabulous. Gosh, I love medieval art. I love art like this. Like, where you could see how they carved in, like, each single, like, strand of hair here. Oh my god, and all the, like, details on the folds? I can't do folds like that. That's so cool. Okay. So Niello is a black mixture usually of sulfur, copper, silver, and lead used as an inlay on engraved or etched metal, especially silver. It's added as a oh, so it's kind of like you rub the color into like the depressions in here, and it leaves behind this like black ink essentially. And it was all Niello. They call me Niello Yellow. Quite right. That's cool. I think when we were learning about tabletop war games and like painting minis, I feel like this was also one of the painting techniques where you like put kind of like a thin kind of like wash of paint and then you kind of wipe away the stuff. We all live in a Niello submarine. So I feel like we have seen this technique before, but we got to familiarize ourselves with it because I feel like we looked up Niello once before and we already forgot. So remember, Niello is kind of like the little like black coloring that gets left behind when you wipe it away. Top 25% is still pretty decent. What did we get the most wrong? Here, the oval brooch that was actually Viking. And then the sword pommel, I think, was kind of the furthest like distance wise. And then the 2 times we thought it was China, but it was actually Japan. Sulfur, silver, and lead sounds yummy. It sure is. A little stinky, too. Just a little bit. Okay, let's put this in daily games. But alright, let's go ahead and get into our decade study, shall we? Let's do it to it. Let me go ahead and just navigate so I can see the chat on my second screen so that I can catch you guys if you're being naughty, which you always are. But let's get into it. So yeah, as I mentioned when studying the 1900s and the 1910s, it feels like I did less research compared to like the later decades, but it's mostly because like there wasn't that much to talk about with pop culture, but we'll get into it. What? No. I would never be mischievous. I would never download a car. Or would we? But alright, so yeah, once again, because I am a filthy bear American, what helps me anchor myself to the decade is usually going over who are the US presidents during this time, and we have 2. Usually, when one president kind of like was the main one of the decade, like in the case of like TR in the 1900s, like yeah, McKinley was there at like the early half and Taft was there at the latter half. It was mostly Theodore Roosevelt's decade. I usually bold them like this, but in the case of the 1910s, you have 2 presidents that basically like were like on either side, like early and late 1910s were the presidents. So we have William Howard Taft, who is also our heaviest president thus far, I believe. I don't think his record has been overtaken yet by our current guy. And he was the president until 1913, followed by Woodrow Wilson, who is noticeably more lanky. But yeah, and then he was president until 1921. So yeah, I think most of the reason why I didn't do that much research is because a lot of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is kind of covered in a lot of usually like US history schools, or schools that at least like go over like US history, and because it's like a world war, I'm sure that like other schools from other countries also go over it as well. But the big thing for the 1910s, I think the biggest thing to talk about is the Great War, which would later be known as World War I, but only after the Second Great War, World War II, right? But prior to that, it was basically known as the Great War and also touted as like the war to end all wars. And yeah, if you've ever taken like a European history class, like you've probably had like the causes of this war like drilled into your head. But basically what had happened is that this was if you remember when we were talking about the 1900s, this was kind of a period of relative peace. This was the Belle Epoque or Epic, the beautiful era, because there was relative peace after the Franco-Prussian War. And leading up to that time, Europe was kind of balanced out. So great that they surely wouldn't do another one. Surely, right? And don't call me Shirley. Oh my god, me and Beans, we went to if you guys have heard of Amoeba, the place that sells like music and DVDs and stuff, we went there I believe this past weekend, and we got I got the DVD for Airplane with Leslie Nielsen. I'm so excited to watch it because I used to watch it all the time when I was younger, and like I remember so many of the jokes. Like the line of people trying to beat up the person that's like panicking on the airplane. The like, don't worry, I speak jive. And how do you take your coffee? And it's like a little girl being like, I take it black, like my men. I just wanted to say good luck. We're all counting on you. And don't call me Shirley. Also, on that note, did you guys hear that there's another Spaceballs coming out? I'm excited for that too. Okay, so back to the war. Enough talking about comedy. We gotta talk about the war. So yeah, like Europe was in relative peace because everyone kind of balanced each other out. A hospital? What is it? It's a big building with patients, but that's not important right now. Also, the inflatable pilot and all of the like jokes at was it Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? Or it wasn't Magic Johnson, right? Like there was like a famous basketball player that kept on like, you know, like I don't know, like all of his bits in that movie were so funny. This is Victor Vector. Roger. So yeah, Europe was pretty balanced by this point. Until countries started uniting. And another country started to get like more power, and one of those included give me a second. My throat's a little dry, so I have to cough every now and then. But Germany was starting to get a little bit more powerful. So this upset the balance of power in Europe. So things were already kind of like getting tense. But then because of like a lot of this like kind of intensity and this anxiety, a lot of different countries, nations, and empires around Europe started to create alliances with one another. And this meant that if anything should happen to one of the alliance members, then the entire alliance would kind of join in. So, you know, if you imagine like like a street gang or something like that, where it's like the cats versus the dogs, but the dogs have a partnership with the mice, and the cats have a partnership with the I don't know what else is the raccoons. So if the mice were to get attacked, then the dogs would join in, but then by reacting against the cats, then the raccoons would join in. So that kind of thing. But in this case, it was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Now, if I recall correctly, he was a Serbian. I think he was the heir apparent. Was he was assassinated in Serbia, right? Give me a second. I'm showing how long it's been since I've studied this. We're gonna look it up together. I thought they were just a band. I thought they were just a band, you see. The one with like the super sick opening to Cyberpunk. Okay, he was the heir apparent to the throne of Austria-Hungary, which was an empire at the time, and he was assassinated in Serbia. So in basically his assassination, it kind of set off this huge powder keg of alliances, because Serbia basically went to Russia to basically be like, you know, protect your Slavic brethren. Meanwhile, Austria-Hungary would go to the rest of like the German states, including Germany, which also had an alliance with the Ottoman Empire. Never forget that the direct assassination of Franz Ferdinand has a direct line to the creation of anime. Are you talking about like it leading to World War II and then like the post-World War II kind of like economic collapse, but then like somehow that led to I feel like I've heard this theory before, but feel free to jog my memory. This sounds familiar. So yeah, this basically set off a whole powder keg, which led to the Allied powers, which included these folks. So the Allied powers was France, UK, Russia, Italy, US, and Japan, versus the Central Powers. And they're called the Central Powers because they're like right in the center of Europe as well. So Germany, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria, and also others over here. So it's very interesting because it's like these are all the players for the next World War. But a lot of them are kind of on the same side. But alliances out of the way, once the war started, getting on, once the war started, it did feature some things that had not been part of wars before. So, everything before the Franco-Prussian and like Napoleonic Wars didn't have the stuff that they would introduce in this one, including trench warfare, first large-scale use of artillery, tanks, aircraft, machine guns, and chemical weapons, including the mustard gas. So me and Beans always reference this one scene from like Archer, where it's like, I think Archer saying like, it's the time of zeppelins and mustard gas. Like I think of that when it comes to like this. And kind of fast forwarding because I'm not too interested in like military history that much. There is a lot to talk about when it comes to World War I. Or the Great War, but as you can see, there's like pictures over here of like trench warfare, artillery, tanks, and look how small they are. I'm so used to tanks being these humongo things, but they did start out kind of like big enough to fit like a person, and that's like about it. As well as gas masks. So it concluded with the controversial Treaty of Versailles that was very one-sided. It was very much towards the victors, which were the Allied forces, and it did lead to basically a lot of economic and financial collapse for the losers, and even the winners too, because Russia's participation in the war did eventually lead to the Russian Revolution. That the Russo-Japanese War also added to that, but like basically like a lot of countries on both sides were basically like economically weakened after this war. But definitely more so Germany, which would invariably lead to the start of World War II. But we're looking too ahead into the future. But it would also lead to the collapse of a whole bunch of various monarchies and modern empires. So the Russian Empire would collapse, German Empire, Ottoman Empire, and Austria-Hungary. And someone would come out on top. So despite the fact that a lot of countries lost a lot through the war, the US would become a leading economic power during this time. And it's interesting because if we like rewind all the way back to when we were doing our 1920s decade study, prior to this, a lot of the fashion was centered in Paris. And even into the 1920s and 30s, like fashion is still kind of like centered in Paris. Like people are looking at Paris for it. But then like once you get into like the 20s, 30s, and 40s, then it does shift into the Americas, into the US. So this is kind of the start of that. So in addition to the big war, we also have a bunch of revolutions that happened throughout. I'm just gonna list kind of like the like 4 big ones. There's a whole bunch that happened, but these are kind of the 4 big ones. So we have Portugal. They overthrew the monarchy and then established the first Portuguese Republic in 1910. Mexico. So this is an interesting one. This was in November of 1910. It ousted Porfirio Diaz, who was basically he was a long-running president. Mexico mentioned. Let's go. Is that a gun? Let's freaking go. So yeah, Porfirio Diaz, he was basically president, but for a very long time, for decades essentially, because he kept on rigging a lot of the elections and he had a lot of power over the army. So this revolution included ousting him from that position, but it would also lead to a civil war that wouldn't end until the 1920s, and it includes a lot of famous figures like Emiliano Zapata and Pancho Villa, and a lot more. But I kind of just got like a kind of a surface level understanding of it. But there's a lot of kind of like romanticization of the things that had happened in during the Civil War. I like their uniforms. It kind of reminds me of like the Philippine Revolution against the Americans. Filipimos, am I right? But yeah, so that was happening, and then the Russian Revolution. This was the and Civil War. Once again, this is a result of the economic and sociopolitical unrest after both the Russo-Japanese War, in which Russia got like humiliated, and then World War One, the Great War, which like Russia was on the winning side, but they lost so much in terms of like people, but also resources and like just economics that like, yeah, this was kind of like a foregone conclusion. So with all of this unhappiness and unrest, the people would eventually come together under the Bolshevik Party, and overthrow the ruling Romanov family. So this is where the story of Anastasia comes from, by the way. So if you're familiar with Anastasia, the story of like, you know, her whole family was like massacred, but she survived, and you know, she would go on, and people would pretend that they were Anastasia in order to claim that, you know, they were royalty, but ultimately it was eventually revealed through forensics that Anastasia did not survive, that essentially the whole family had died that day. So yeah, and it's interesting because like it is kind of like romanticized, like the Romanov family and like the tragedy, which like it is a tragedy that like essentially their whole family was like killed off all in one day. But I just remember this funny like Tumblr post or tweet, I forgot what it was, of like a guy. So the movie lied a little bit, just a teensy bit, you know. I like the music though. Once Upon a December. If you could I forgot the lyrics, but in the dark of the night, terror will find you, find you. But yeah, the movie is unfortunately a fantasy. But I just remember this tweet of like this person saying that like, oh, I loved Anastasia growing up. I love the movie. You know, you're telling me Rasputin wasn't a wizard? Well, okay, maybe he was, because if you guys know the stories about like how he died, it's like, damn, maybe. Maybe. But yeah, the tweet was like, oh yeah, as a kid, I really love Anastasia, and I was watching it one time, and my dad was like watching it silently with me, and then by the end of the movie, he quietly got up and said, "This is Tsarist propaganda," and walked away. You heard the song about him? Yeah, it's Ra Ra Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. Ra Ra Rasputin, Russia's greatest love machine. I still want to watch the Kingsman movie that has him. That trailer with that song was sick. Was awesome. But yeah, the Bolshevik Party, this was led by Leon Trotsky and Vladimir Lenin. Here is a bunch of the Bolshevik Party like overthrowing or like they're gathered over here at the Winter Palace right before the big event and everything. But yeah, if you're not familiar with like how Rasputin died, it took many tries because the guards essentially they or the people that were in charge of assassinating him, I think first they tried to poison him multiple times, and then I forgot what it was. I feel like there was like a fourth thing, but they tried to poison him, didn't work, so they shot him in the face. Somehow that didn't work. Tossed his body in the river, and there were like clues that he like might have still survived that up until like the very end when they found his corpse. But I think I heard someone saying that like the reason why that was is that the poison that the guards had used had expired, essentially, so it was less effective as a poison. And then the shot to the head was like the gun actually misfired, and then one of the people I researched on my stream just happened to be passing through Russia during the revolution. They were held there for months. Oh my gosh, dang. But yeah, so Rasputin has a reputation for not only being the lover of the Russian queen, but also being like a mystic. He was kind of a weirdo. Claimed that he could heal Alexei Romanov's what is it, hemophilia. And yeah, he's apparently immortal. So that's that. There's also in China there was the Xinhai Revolution, which ended 2,000 years of imperial rule. So the Qing dynasty was overthrown and the Republic of China was established. But starting in 1916, power over China was split amongst various warlords until reunification in the 1920s. And from there, it kind of got like messier and messier. I was trying to look more into like Chinese history because like it's called the Republic of China, but then the successor state to that is Taiwan. So it's like, dang, what happened, right? But also my throat is getting dry, so let me get another sip of water. Okie dokie. Let us get back into it. So those are some of the revolutions that had happened. And in terms of other things that happened during the 1910s, one is prohibition. So this started at the tail end of things, 1919. We want beer. At first I read this as me want beer. And it's like, you know what? I can see that. Me want beer now. There was also the sinking of the Titanic. Over here, this also happened during the 1910s. I think this is a cartoon. This is a political cartoon about prohibition in the name of God and humanity. The Temperance League. They're cutting down all of this sinful alcohol, the rum and the brandy. Woman's Holy War, grand charge on the enemy works. And there's also the Spanish flu, this big pandemic in which, you know, people had to mask up in order to prevent transmission of an airborne disease. And there were some people that were against masking up, and they were like, why do we have to mask up? And yeah, so that had happened. A lot of people died, but eventually people got over it. And it's not like that would ever happen again, right? It's not like that's ever anything that would ever, you know, happen twice. Like if I had a nickel for every time it happened, I'd have a couple nickels, which isn't that much, but it's weird that it happened that many times. But yeah, so Spanish flu. And then from here we can go into a little bit of pop culture. So radios were starting to become a thing. Radio shows were starting to become a thing by this point. But I'll focus a little bit on the popular books, music, and film. So in terms of popular books, there was Inside of the Cup by Winston Churchill, Mr. Britling Sees It Through by H.G. Wells, and The Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse by Vicente Blasco Ibanez. Unfortunately, I don't know any of those books, but given that one of them was written by Winston Churchill, sounds like it was probably pretty banger. And H.G. Wells, too. Music was mostly ballroom themed, but there were starting to people were starting to install dance floors in certain restaurants. So this is the birth of the dance hall, of like dancing during social events. Very nice, right? Well, not the start of it. People have been dancing for social events since like time immemorial, but like kind of in a more like what is it, like overt, like modern, in the modern era. This is kind of like the start of that kind of culture. Jazz music becomes popular starting in February of 1917. This is when some of the first jazz records were starting to be recorded. But of course, the jazz age would not solidify in full until the 1920s with the jazz age and like the roaring 20s. And as you can probably hear from this like playlist, we're not hearing a lot of jazz so far, but that's because it's still blossoming at this point. Film was starting to also blossom at this point. So we have our first feature-length film, Oliver Twist, released in 1912. So last time we were talking about like first films, first feature films and stuff like that, and I looked it up, like what is the difference, right? So a feature-length film is basically a film that is so long that it's basically the main attraction. It's like the main thing that you go to the movie theater for. So there was a time before where like films were much shorter, in which you could catch a twofer or even a threefer. Like you could catch like multiple movies within one like session, you know. But a feature film is one where it's like it's so long. I didn't quite look into like what the length was, whether it was like an hour and a half, but in which like that's the main thing that you are going to do at the theater is like to watch the one film, right? So it was Oliver Twist. It was released in 1912. And then Hollywood is starting to blossom during this point as well. Gotta go to the local Nickelodeon and see a show for a nickel. Yeah, that's where it came from. And then that's where we got the name for the cartoon studio. So yeah, Hollywood is starting to blossom during this point. It replaces the East Coast as the center of film industry and the Warner Brothers. I feel like Warner Brothers is one of those things where you hear it so often that you forget the meaning of the words and the fact that it is four brothers whose last name is Warner. You know, like Gabba's Battle and the water heater. Like, he's like, I didn't know that water heaters heat the water, you know? Me being like, I didn't know the Warner Brothers were a set of brothers. But yeah, like, this was set up by the four Warner Brothers. But where's Dot? Right? I don't, it's like, there's Yakko, Wacko, but then who are the two other guys? But also, where's Dot, you know? But they set up their studio in Burbank, which still survives to this day, by the way. Like, it's, you can still drive, through where I think I still see, like, that original, still in the water tower. Yeah, exactly. This is also the debut of Charlie Chaplin, specifically in his Little Tramp character. Like this, right? So yeah, Hollywood is starting to blossom, and I'm not sure if this is true, but it does make a lot of sense. Like, one reason why Hollywood was why a lot of filmmaking moved over to LA specifically is because of the weather. It's not just that the weather is really nice, but also the geography of LA makes it so that, like, whatever you're trying to look for, like, if you're trying to film in the desert, just go over to, like, you know, the road leading to Vegas. And, like, that is very, like, desert country. If you're trying to, like, go to, like, something more Mediterranean, you know, just stay kind of, like, local to LA or, like, in the mountains, right? Basically, like, you can find every single, like, biome within, like, a day's drive of, like, LA. Can you imagine if the movie industry never moved and all movies were still made in New Jersey? That'd be sick, because then, you know, my accent wouldn't be as, like, popular, not popular, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, I would kill to see the alternate dimension in which everyone has a Jersey accent, and that became the popular accent, you know? I'd be so down for that. Instead, we got people learning their English through, like, LA English. A travesty it is. A travesty. I want my accent to be unique, is what I'm saying. But alright, so yeah, that's pop culture. That's a lot of what was happening during the 1910s. And it's interesting because, like, because this is the advent of, like, photography was starting to become more popular during this time. When you compare it to, like, other eras where we get, like, a mix of both art and photography, there's a little bit more color all around. Yeah, like, here it's a mix of, like, illustrations but also photography. Here it seems like a lot of the events focus on photography, so it's very, like, gray. Everything sounds like the Californian sketch. What are you doing here? Like, oh my god, what are you doing here? That sketch is my life, brother. Gotta take the 405 to the 101. What do you mean you guys don't say the? I didn't know that NorCal also does that. That NorCal says, like, doesn't say the before the freeways. I thought us Californians were united in that, but I was wrong. I was wrong. I love NorCal though. I know I say it a lot, but I love NorCal. All my friends from NorCal, sick as hell. The parties, sick as hell. Like, the Filipino community in NorCal, sick as hell. And in fact, we're going to NorCal next week for Offkai. So yippee! We try to make ourselves as different from you as possible. Again with the meanness. I'm here showering you guys with compliments. I'm here like, I love NorCal. All my friends from NorCal are sick as heck. And then, like, and then it's like, I hate you. I hate you guys. Stupid SoCals don't know shit. I'm kidding. I just you're laughing at me. I'm showering you guys with compliments and you're laughing. We want our water back? That's the rich people. That's the freaking trillionaires and billionaires. I'm not one of them. Most of the city is not. Most of the city's living in freaking poverty. That ain't us stealing your water, buddy. That's Elon. We are united. We should be united in our class consciousness. All we have to lose is our chains. Anyway, Schnackery is tearing down the door. Give me a second. I'm from Southern California. I love that too. I love that too, man. I love Southern California. I love that too. I wish to see Mexico one day. I used to live less than an hour away from Off-Grid before I moved to the East Coast, and every year I get serious FOMO. Aw, dang. Yeah, I there's definitely gonna be like other conventions for VTubers. I know that the one that was happening on the East Coast is getting a little bit of flack lately, but I'm sure there's gonna be other ones that come about. But yeah, all right. Yeah, all we have to lose is our chains, brother. We have to be united in the struggle. The people united will never be defeated. El pueblo unido. Wait, what was it? El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Ah, there's a Filipino version too. Hold on. There's a Filipino version too. Ang tao, ang bayan. I forgot it. I'm not a true socialist. I forgot how to say it in Tagalog. It's like the people united will never be defeated, and then the Spanish version is like El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. And there's like a Filipino version, and I forgot it. Ang tao, ang bayan, something, something, something. Basically, that translates to like the people, the country, something, something, something. Okay. Usually I go to the fashion and cars and then I finish off on the art movements, but I'm gonna reverse it up for today, and we're gonna be doing the art movements and then we're gonna finish off with the fashion and the cars. Mostly because like a lot of the fashion, there are some noticeable differences, but when it comes to like men's fashion, it is very similar to the 1900s. So, and also I really want to talk about this art from the 1910s. So, if we look at the last time on Dragon Ball Z, if we look at the last time we talked about art, we talked a lot about like what was happening pre-1900s. So you had realism and impressionism coming about, and then in reaction, or kind of like branching off from that, was cubism, in which people like Pablo Picasso were inspired by, they're trying to rethink art, essentially, especially with the popularization of the film camera. So if cameras could basically recreate what we see with our eyes, the idea of like photorealistic art is basically like kind of out the door, you know, like now artists were trying to find like how could art kind of set itself apart from the photorealistic images that photography can form. So one of the ideas was, of course, impressionism and post-impressionism, and that would eventually evolve into things like cubism, where the body or like certain features were becoming more and more abstracted. So like starting from here, they were starting to become more and more abstracted into shapes. So Pablo Picasso was a big part of that, but also Georges Braque. We also see Fauvism with Henri Matisse and Andre Derain, where they experimented a lot with color, and then Expressionism, where this is kind of like a huge umbrella term for just like art that is meant to inspire a specific mood with not as much emphasis on the realism. Once again, the whole point during this time period is to like not just be photorealistic. At this point in time, it's boring, you know? It's boring to be photorealistic because you could just use a camera. So instead, people were trying to look into like how to show things like expression and mood, how to elicit that from art. So these movements, with exception to Fauvism, would continue on into the 1910s, and here are a couple of those examples. So Cubism would continue with the works of Picasso and Braque, as well as another one named Metzinger, I believe. I think this is actually by Diego Rivera. You know, the guy who cheated on his wife, Frida Kahlo. But also the very gifted muralist. What's funny, I just think of the Salma Hayek movie all the time. But you also see a continuation of Expressionism, including Franz Marc, and one of my favorite kind of abstract artist, Kandinsky. So we're not seeing a lot of his like more recognizable art just yet. That art would come about in the next decade. Where is it? I thought I put it here somewhere. Here we go. So when people think of Kandinsky, they think of more art that looks like this, which this is my favorite. Like, this is like 100% grown on me so much. Also ugly as heck according to his wife. Yeah, like wasn't it Frida Kahlo's dad that was like seeing my daughter marry this guy is like seeing what did he say? It's like a deer marrying a gorilla or something. And it's like, I don't think he looks that bad, but yeah, when you compare like Frida Kahlo to Diego Rivera, it's like, yeah, I kind of see it. Like, his art is beautiful, I will say that, but like, I don't know, that was such a toxic relationship. So yeah, when people imagine like the work of Kandinsky, they're imagining stuff that looks more like this, very abstract, right? Very like, it's very musical, this kind of art. There's a flow to it. It feels like you're seeing like a visualization of music. But if we rewind back to the 1910s, his art was a little bit more landscape like. It's a little bit more not realistic but naturalistic. But Kandinsky was starting to experiment with abstracting some of his forms. So this, for example, is a landscape, but he's experimenting a lot with colors, as we saw with Fauvism. So he's putting in colors that aren't really there. He's just experimenting with like how to elicit you know, this mood that he's going for. And more he would abstract it, like abstract and abstract and abstracted. He would simplify until you get that where I keep losing it. Oh, it's right here. Until you get something closer to this. So yeah, that is Kandinsky's work. I believe this is all Franz Marc's work, the ones that feature animals. So kind of similarly, like you're seeing something that's a little bit more naturalistic, but he's playing around with like the shapes of like plant life in the background. And then, for example, like this doggy, it looks like a doggy, right? But then as you can see, he's kind of like simplifying some of these shapes until you get to something like this fox, where like the contours of each part of the body is like simplified into a certain shape. And he's playing with like how to show that shape, but while still kind of making it look like a fox, right? So that's what kind of the essence is for a lot of these abstract works, is that it's not just I feel like when people think about abstract art, there's this thought that it's artists just like kind of doing whatever on the canvas. Like they just wake up one day and it's like, I'm just gonna paint a whole bunch of triangles. Where like, yeah, they might wake up one day and think that, but that's because over the past like 10 years of their life, they've been kind of like abstracting it until, you know, like I said, something like this and this kind of experimentation becomes something like this. So yeah, I'm trying to remember, like there's a couple other artists where you can kind of see the trajectory of like how their art got that way, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The next two art styles we're going to be looking at are very interesting because one of them I like stylistically, and then I found out the philosophy of it and I'm like, ooh, never mind. So this is called Futurism, and it's funny because in other decade studies where we looked at, for example, conceptual art and abstract art and stuff like that, a lot of them were kind of harkening back, or they were kind of like referencing futurism because it was a very experimental art movement for its time. And if you see some of these like paintings, they're full of energy. Like there's a lot of like sharp angles, like harsh lines, harsh shapes. Even this statue, this is an example of a futurist statue. There's like this like motion behind it. It's very full of energy. And even this is actually one of my favorite paintings. It's a little dog, you know, walking, and the way that they're showing like the motion of it. Like Beans used to have this little doggy that like whenever we took it for walks, this is how it looked like, right? Like the way like the tail is wagging and stuff. So there's a sense of motion, there's a sense of energy with it. And that's why like initially I really like this style, and still like on an aesthetic level I still do like it, but here's where it gets kind of tricky. So futurism is a movement that is not just art but also like poetry, writing, that spawned from this Italian poet named Filippo Tommaso Marinetti in 1909. So he made this manifesto of futurism. There's a lot of like interesting things about him. Like before he wrote this manifesto, he like got into a car accident and the violence of that car accident kind of like inspired him to think of this idea of futurism. So futurism basically looks towards the future, embraces industrialism, manufacturing and speed. All of these are symbols of progress, and he liked violence and war. It's funny because like I immediately thought of that one character from Hellsing, the one like Nazi guy that's like, I love war. And I was like, dang, I didn't realize that's just this guy. That's just this guy. So he likes Filippo Tommaso Marinetti was talking about like the beauty of violence and war as a purifying factor. It also spawns idealism. And he even went as far as to say art in fact can be nothing but violence, cruelty, and injustice. Another thing with looking towards the future, actually you can kind of see that because this is kind of like one of the first well-known futurist works. This is showing the construction of a dam, and as you can see there's so much motion. There's like animals here that are helping to like push and pull things. There's people that are like pulling on the animals, but then like some of the animals seems like they're kind of like going crazy. People are like, you know, getting, you know, gored, I guess, by these animals. So there's a lot of violence happening, but it's all in the name of progress. It's all in the name of building this cool industrial dam, you guys. So another thing with like looking forward towards the future is that they rejected archaic institutions. They rejected the past. So the idea of like they look so much to the future that they also don't like the past. They don't want to talk about it. So they would reject archaic institutions and called for an end to museums, libraries, and academies in order to focus on the future. We can't be looking towards the future if we're too busy focusing on the past. So in that regard, this is one of their quotes. We want to demolish museums and libraries, fight morality, fight feminism, and all opportunist and utilitarian cowardice. So yeah, that's another thing. Didn't like feminism that much. They didn't like it that much. So unsurprisingly, this would influence the idea of fascism, and a lot of fascist leaders, including Mussolini, would support this art movement. So you would kind of see it. It wasn't like the main art style of Mussolini's regime, but it was one of them. Yeah, right. Boo this man. Boo this man. So, but as an art movement, it emphasizes speed, movement, and power, glorifies industry workers in war. Let's see, did we not do this decade already? We did not. So, hello, Zako. As a refresher, we started off the decade studies with the 1920s. We started with the 1920s. We went all the way through the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, and then we rewinded back to the 1900s. Because we missed it. I thought the 1920s would cover us because that's like 100 years in the past. I was wrong. So now we are on the 1910s. So yeah. Let's see. But yeah, talking about futurism, it emphasizes speed, movement, power, glorifies industry, workers, and war. And a lot of artists use this repetitive brushstroke thing like we see here in this piece of artwork. Similar to Impressionism and a figure in multiple... they would also show figures from multiple viewpoints like Cubism. Industry artists, how dare they? So yeah, this is a good example actually of like impressionism, but also like cubism, but that doesn't quite feel like cubism because it is showing like this dog moving at like different points in the walk cycle, right? Like it's all kind of overlaid on top of each other, but it's not cubist in that like the dog is just like an oval, you know? So yeah, same with this. Like this looks like a person walking, but almost like at different points in the walk cycle. This one is very like cubist inspired, right? Like you definitely see all the geometric shapes. Here, this is kind of just like in praise of like lamplight, like literally the light of a lamp. And it's using these like wild brush strokes to kind of like show that, right? So there's a lot of energy. I think that's why like at first glance, this does seem like a really cool art style in that like there's a lot of energy, there's lots of movement, but knowing kind of the ideology behind it is also very like, ooh, yikes. Interesting, right? Let me take a drink of water and then we're gonna move to the complete opposite, which is geometric abstraction. So give me a second, let me drink. All right, we're back. I just needed to rest my my voice for a little bit. So next up is geometric abstraction. So this is kind of on the opposite side of things. So history-wise, this includes, or rather like art-wise, this includes Russian constructivism and suprematism. These are both kind of similar art styles, as well as Dutch distil or distil. I think it translates to the style. And it would eventually influence the Bauhaus movement of the 1920s. Excuse me. So similar to futurism, this movement is inspired by industrial and urban progress, and it was also supported by a state government for a time. But in this case, instead of the fascist government of Italy, it was supported by the communist government of Russia. But later on, there would be kind of more of an emphasis of social realism, especially under Stalin. But for a while, this was the style of communist Russia. So in contrast to futurism, it saw traditional painting as too bourgeois. So like everything that was kind of like coming before, or any type of like kind of like traditional painting at all, that was too bourgeoisie, you know? It wasn't the people's art. So that from here they were trying to like if you were painting, you were trying to kind of like deconstruct art back to its fundamentals. So simple shapes, simple line works, and simple colors. Stuff like this. This is kind of like, this is Russian constructivism over here. Not only that, but like once it was deconstructed, it was being built back up. So now that you have these like simple shapes, you are starting to build it back up. Kind of very similar to cubism in a way. Very similar, right? Oh yeah, and that's another thing, is that art had to fulfill a purpose and be practical to all. Another thing that I forgot to write down here is that like while painting was still kind of valued as long as it kind of like followed this idea of like reconstructing from fundamentals, there was a big emphasis on graphic design. Stuff like printmaking, stuff like screen printing, where it was stuff that like could be used for a practical purpose. So for here, a big thing is agitprop, which is agitated propaganda. I did a whole kind of like side conversation, I think this past Monday, about like, oh yeah, I used to be familiar with that term. So yeah, like basically used for propaganda of like, oh, you know, make sure you do your part, and that way you can get, you know, your food and your sustenance for the day. So stylistically, there's a lot of abstraction and emphasis on geometric shapes, and some notable artists include Alexander Rodchenko. I didn't include too much of his work here, but he does have some really cool both photography and graphic design. Like, he's well known for this one in particular. And one very interesting about like graphic design during this time period is that it is all analog. Like, if you take a look at this poster, let me put it like right here. So if you take a look at this poster, you could recreate this pretty easily if you have access to like Photoshop or like any kind of like digital art program, right? You just have to use like the selection tool, the fill tool, and all that. But that wasn't super commonly used back then. This is all analog, as in like he had to take a ruler and a compass and measure out each angle of this, and then he would fill it in with like paint, with screen, with like by using like printing methods. I'm actually not sure how he got the photo on there either. But all of this is like handmade. No use of like any kind of like assisting, well, definitely no computers, but no like assisting technology other than that. Rodchenko also has really cool photography. I'm actually a big fan of his photography because there's something very like satisfying about it. Like this is one of his photos. It is just like a photo of like an electrical tower, but it's the way that, I don't know, the circles kind of like join in on each other. There's this one as well. There's like an emphasis on patterns and texture within photography. I don't know. I think that's why he's actually like one of my favorites. And then lastly, we're actually not gonna go into it that much because we already have gone over it. The other art style that would come about during this time was Dada. We did go over this when we did our very first decade study on the 1920s, but yeah, it would have its start during the earlier decade. And we do have an ad break coming up in about 40 seconds, but before that happens, I'll just summarize it really quick. Basically, Dada was a reaction to the Great War. It was this reaction of like, war is nonsensical, it's violent, it's like terrible for the human race. So if all these things are becoming nonsensical in the world, why should art make any sense? So with that, this was kind of like a huge kind of like middle finger, but also rethinking of what constitutes art. And in my opinion, it's kind of a big ancestor to the idea of like conceptual art, modern and contemporary art. So yeah, let's go ahead and put you guys in recess and we'll be back after the ad break. See you in a bit. Oh, what the hell? Why are we in detention? I just got back from getting my water. What the hell? Hello, we are back. We're back from recess, but also we went straight from recess into detention. So let me see. Owen, thank you for the 12 months. How you doing? How did your 3D debut go? I was unfortunately busy. Couldn't catch it. I will be watching the VOD, but how'd it go? I know you had your 3D debut recently. Hello. It was Owen who activated detention. J'accuse. Why are we in my room? It was fun. Nice. Hello, Baxter Crook. Hello. We are currently in Mr. Pancakes' office, also known as detention. Yeah. So I hope you guys are keeping toasty, right? Hope you guys are nice in the in this toasty little weather that we're having, right? But yeah, with that, let's get back to it, shall we? Nice. I'm glad that you had fun. I'll be watching the VOD. I'll be watching the VOD for the 3D debut. I started playing Hellmaiden now. I want to read Dante's Inferno so I can enjoy the Yuri better. Is the full game out? I played it when it was in the demo, but I've been seeing more people talk about it. So I'm assuming, like, is the full game out, or was there like some kind of update? Because I loved it. Like, I loved it. Early access just started. Oh, okay. Does the info from the demo carry over? Like, does your file from the demo carry over? Because if that's the case... Oh, you got a key from the devs. Nice. Okay, cool. Alright, yeah, and you joined us as we were talking about the 1910s. So we just finished talking about two art styles that were both kind of supported by the respective governments of the time. So, not sure? Alright, we'll find out. But Italian Futurism, which was supported by the fascists, and Russian Constructivism and Suprematism, which was supported by the communists up until a certain point. But now we are moving on to Dada, which we did talk about during our very first decade study, in which this was a very, very experimental style that, like, in so little words is actually more of like a big middle finger to the idea of art. But that is because that it was a reaction to the horrors that people were exposed to with World War I. Now, war has always been horrific. Like any of the things that we think of with like PTSD, like brutality, war crimes, all those things were happening since time immemorial. Like even one of the earliest like Neolithic art that we can find is of like a brutal war. So this has always been like a thing. But what had changed with the Great War, with World War I, was not just the use of new technology like artillery, chemical gas and stuff. It was photography. So because of photography, war photographers could take pictures of what was happening on the battlefield, and people could see it. When those photographers came back to their homelands, they could see all the monstrosities and atrocities that were happening. Before that point, war for a lot of people and a lot of cultures was very romanticized because the people that like came back from the war, they were hailed as heroes that defended their community, or they defended their people and stuff like that. Without seeing like what it is that gave them PTSD. There's even like accounts of like people going back to like Roman times having PTSD. So now people were seeing it almost in real time. There was still, you know, a little gap of time, but people were seeing both the effects and the actual like happenings of war. So with so many people exposed to these atrocities, in fact, it's very similar to like the basically the popularization of social media, for example, where now like things like, you know, racial crimes and like sexist crimes and like transphobic, homophobic crimes, these have been happening for a very long time. But now because social media allows us to kind of like post things right as they're happening, or even like live streaming them sometimes, people were seeing just how bad it's been for people outside of your community and outside of your experience. So it's very similar in that way. With this in mind, Dada was a reaction to that. So it was a reaction against the nonsensical brutality of the war. And it was like, well, this is absurd. This is so horrific. This is so ridiculous that it's absurd. So they started to kind of question like, well, then what is art? Like, what's even the point of making art? What's the point of making beautiful art or things that I enjoy if we're just gonna die? You know, if like people are losing their lives over ideas of like nationalism and stuff like that. So this is what I mean by saying that, like, it's kind of like also a huge middle finger to art, because one of the like main people of the Dada movement was Marcel Duchamp, and he made this. This is basically just a urinal. It's a urinal, and he signed it under the name R. Mutt, dated it, and he's like, this is art. And as you can see, this is kind of a precursor to like the idea of conceptual art, right? Like this idea of like, it's art because I say it's art. Oh, we broke the pipes. Wait, is it working properly? Let me check OBS real quick. Oh, it's so transparent now. I didn't mean for it to be as transparent as it is. We'll fix it another time. Trust that you guys are in water. It's just very clear water. I cleaned out the filter and everything today. So, you know. Praise me. So yeah, this was kind of like the beginning of this idea of like conceptual art. So they use like ordinary objects like urinals, bicycle wheels, and recontextualize them as art using photography and collage. So this was definitely like very controversial because people were like, it's a urinal, dog, like this ain't art. Basically this was the banana taped to the wall of its time. But they also did some pretty other interesting things. Like I really like the photography, for example, of Man Ray, because it gets a little bit into like surrealism. So if we take a look at some of his photography, yeah, this is some of his stuff. I like these ones where they're kind of like weirdly developed photographs. Stuff like this. Stuff like this, where it's just regular objects, but he photographed them and he kind of like created a new art style, new aesthetic. Playing around with like how things were, what's it called? Like developed photography wise. So all this was like, it was pretty interesting for its time because like photography, this is also the kind of the beginning of photography being seen not just as a tool to make things, to like copy how you see things, but using it as its own art form itself. They also made use of things like collage. This is the art of what is it, Hannah Hoch. And this is also using photography in order to make art. So she took all these different like magazine clippings, these different photographs, these different words, and she kind of assembled it into a way that kind of recontextualizes the art piece itself. So yeah, that is Dada. That is Dada. Arguably, that's kind of the beginning of not necessarily modern art, because modern art has its roots in the 1800s, but this is the beginning of like conceptual art. This is kind of the seed, and it wouldn't blossom until around like, 60 years later. It would also lead to surrealism, which we also talked about, which is kind of an offshoot where they kind of explore the dreamlike qualities of strange art. So yeah, those were some of the art movements happening during the Big War, during this time. So we're going to go ahead and finish off with fashion and cars, and then from there we'll take a stab at Time Guesser and call it from there. So let's go ahead and, you know what, let me take another sip of my water and then we'll continue on. Okie dokie. Hydrated. I might need to use the forest sometime soon. Let's talk about fashion. So if we rewind back to the 1900s, a lot of the fashion of this time was still kind of like carryover from the 1890s, where there's still like these really long dresses for women's fashion. They're so long that they trail behind the person. You can't really see the feet. But there was this idea started of like the modern woman, the Gibson woman, who had these like big swaths of hair. And they were a little bit more confident, but they still dressed kind of conservatively. They also had big hats. A big thing during this time was like the big hats and this like kind of like pigeon-breasted silhouette, So I talk about the 1900s because we want to see how it compares to the 1910s. The hats are going to get a little bit smaller, but a whole bunch of other things are going to happen as well. So for women's fashion, the silhouette became a little bit more fluid. And there was in the beginning of the decade, there was a lot of nostalgia for 19th century empire style. So think of, for example, the French Empire and Josephine, the wife of Napoleon. So that kind of style resembles something more like this, where like the like bust line. I forgot that moving your cursor does that. It makes it wave. There's a bit more of like a straighter silhouette. There's no longer this emphasis on like the S line silhouette. Here it's a little bit more straight, and also the bust line is just above the bust, so to speak. Or the neckline, I mean. The neckline is a little bit lower. So there's nostalgia for that, as well as there was a big play about Scheherazade from, I think, what is it, 1001 Arabian Nights. And because of that, there was this big boom, this big mania for anything considered Oriental. You could say that there was a bit of Orientalism going on at the time, where people were like, oh man, that's like... It's funny because like the video that I watched for this was saying that like this could arguably be the first instance of like cultural appropriation, because they were kind of they were picking and choosing different aspects from other cultures that they liked and kind of like combining it into their own. I feel like it's a bit of a reach to say cultural appropriation, but kind of like with Dada, you started to see the seeds of that idea of like taking bits and pieces from a culture that, you know, satisfies you, and kind of making it into your own. But with cultural appropriation nowadays, I feel like it's more so like stealing, you know, the idea of, I'm trying to think of like basically like stealing a whole outfit from like a culture and being like, I'm so new for doing this, I'm so different for doing this, for taking this like, you know, Native American imagery and making it, you know, like in my style. But you did start to see kind of like that idea. But here I feel like they changed it up enough that it's not like as much cultural appropriation in my opinion, but you still see a little bit of like what people mean. So this is when people were wearing like these more flowy pantaloons. Women would also start wearing things like turbans, though not as tightly wrapped as the turbans you do see in like South Asia. But also these vivid colors, these geisha style kimonos. I don't think I have a picture of it, but women would also wear these lampshade tunics. Do I have it? It's called that because it basically makes the woman look like a lampshade. Kind of like this, kind of, where like there's kind of like a shorter skirt over a longer skirt, or over a longer dress. So that was popular during this time. Waistlines were pretty high in the beginning of the decade, but then by mid-decade they were down to calf length. Oh, no. They were under the bust. Dresses were calf length and waistlines dropped down. By the end of the Great War, the waistlines dropped even lower and then became practically undefined, meaning that like the silhouette just became a lot straighter. Like it's no longer like super curvy. I'm trying to find some examples. Let's go back to the 1900s. Here, like the silhouette here is like an S shape. It follows like kind of an S shape over here. That is kind of gone by the time of the 1910s, and especially into the 1920s, where the dresses were becoming way shorter and way straighter. Let's see. And then here's another big one. So during World War I, more women had to enter the workforce because all the men were off fighting the war. So because of this, they started to trend towards more darker, heavier, and more durable materials without as much extravagant detail. So if you see like here at the beginning of the century, you have women with like big ol' hats and what's called hobble skirts, where basically like their legs are so close together and they can't move their legs as much that they're essentially like hopping in order to move. They're making very small steps. So like for some reason that was like in fashion at the time. They were, and then like a lot of the women that wore this style were mocked for it because basically, yeah, it like limited your mobility to the point where like you can't walk properly, you can't even like go upstairs, you know. So women were mocked for it, and like In some cases, it was even dangerous because they couldn't, you know, go upstairs and stuff like that. Trench coats also came into fashion, and then the big hats that you see here early in the decade started to shrink, especially because women had to limit the amount of material they used because of the war effort. But you do start to see things like felt hats, turbans, and tulle, as well as shorter haircuts like bob cuts. So you start seeing this in 1909, and that's kind of a precursor to the Jazz Age. And then women were also opting for more activity with dance or sports. So there were still corsets being sold, but they started to be sold less because the steel used to make the corsets had to be used for the war effort. But they were starting to experiment with new corset types that emphasize movement. So yeah, once you get, this is like the late 1910s. Once you get here, the silhouette is just almost a straight line. Oh yeah, and the hats are a little bit smaller as well. So like compare these big ol' hats to like here, it's starting to get a little smaller, and then by here, it's still pretty wide, right? But this one is like noticeably smaller. Sorry, my nose is all itchy. Alright, so men's fashion. The hair was usually short, the mustaches were usually curled, but a lot of men were also starting to go more clean shaven. So these two fellas over here, no, these are diplomats, so they don't count as much. But yeah, clean shaven was more of the preferred look. Here, all 5 of these guys are like clean shaven. The collar started very tall and stiff, but eventually they did start to be folded over a little bit more. So this is a good example. Like if you look at this painting, the collar is like stiff, right? But then here, it's starting to come down. It's starting to get like folded over until you get into like here where it's starting to like be completely folded down. Here as well. And here you have like more of that like kind of wingtip style collar. There's the sack coat. Basically the tuxedo is starting to kind of replace the longer frock coats. Sometimes men wore spats for the gap between the trousers and the shoes, and then men would also wear the 3-piece suits with the sack coat, the waistcoat, and the trousers. And the hat fashion was very similar to the 1900s. So you saw a lot of these like what's called like, oh, I actually don't have a picture of it. The Holmberg hat, the boat hat, and the kind of like fedora looking thing. Working class clothes were a lot of collared shirts and soft collars, and then tall boots and breeches and cloth. Why did I put cats? Was I thinking about cats? But here are a couple of pictures of like working class folks. As you can probably tell, I'm starting to get a little tired, so we'll go over cars and then we'll call it soon. I also have to use the forest pretty soon. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna use the forest really quick, and then we'll be back and we'll finish off with cars. Alright? So let me put you guys at recess for a little bit. BRB. Okie dokie. Home stretch, you guys. The last thing that we can yap about now is cars. I'm getting my second wind. Alright, let's zoom in. So I think starting from here and then going all around. I wanted to include the swan car because I just thought it's funny looking. And then as we circle around, we're getting into like the later 1910s. And then I believe this is kind of like the tail end of the 1910s. But the big thing with cars during this time is that they were getting more affordable and getting more accessible. So the Ford Model T was kind of the like people's car of this time, because prior to this, cars were mostly just kind of like a novelty for rich people, right? Like not a lot of people are going to be having them, but it wasn't until Henry Ford had this idea of like the what's it called, the like where you assemble things kind of like one by one, but a streamer debuff, and I'm also tired. But production factory thing, you know what I mean, but yeah, so because of this production line, assembly line, yes, thank you, Owen. So because of this assembly line production format, cars were starting to become a lot more affordable to make and to get and to purchase. So the Ford Model T was kind of like the name of the game here. A lot of people were able to, well, not a lot, but like more people were able to purchase them. And in terms of like differentiating, for example, 1900s cars with 1910s cars, one thing that I had never noticed, but it was until I saw an article. So the engine compartment over here, if we scroll back and look at cars from here, the engine compartment kind of just looks like it's bolted to the front of the carriage. So if we look at this car from the 1900s, first off, look at the fenders, and then we're going to look at like this engine compartment. So if we imagine that this is kind of like a carriage or like Santa's sleigh over here, like this is where the horses would go, but instead of a horse, you have the engine. It kind of just looks like it's bolted to like the rest of the car. But later on into the 1910s, it's going to start becoming more unified with the overall shell and the overall carriage. Another thing is, take a look at these fenders over here. These are just kind of to protect the rest of the car from like dirt that gets kicked up from the wheels. So it's kind of like a shield. And that's kind of like their only use in the 1900s. But once we get into the 1910s, these would start to become a little bit more elaborate, and they would start to connect together. So like, as you can see, this front fender and this back fender are separated, but this is eventually going to start connecting. So I'll show you guys what that looks like right now. Here. So take a look. First of all, like I said, the engine is more unified with the rest of the carriage. So this kind of like transitions very smoothly into it, you know, instead of just looking like it's like tacked on to the carriage. And then the fenders. So there's one fender over here for the front wheel, there's one over here for the back wheel, and they're now connected. And not only are they connected, but you could also use it almost like a step stool to get into your car. So there's some innovation here. You get a 2-for-1 special. Not only are you connecting the fenders, but now you get a little step stool. Very cool stuff. Also, the wheels were smaller and lower compared to those of the 1900s. Mostly this is because the carriage itself is starting to get a bit heavier, especially now that it's combined with the engine. Yeah, fenders are more connected. The steering wheel is becoming more of a thing during this time. Prior to this, it was more like I guess like a boat. There's still steering wheels here as well. Actually, yeah, there's steering wheels over here in the 1900s as well, but like more often you would see something a little bit closer to like how you what does it say here? How you kind of like, I guess, steer a boat. I want to say. Headlights were also becoming more of a thing, and here are some of the choices that I picked. So we have the 1910 Ford Model T, the Swan car. I think these are both Model Ts. And I just wanted to include this because I thought it was neat. It's a Swan car. All the way back to the 1910s. I feel like this is something you'd see in like the 60s or like the 90s, you know? Not the 1910s, but no, we had innovation back then too. Isn't that crazy? We also have the 1913 Cadillac Roadster and the 1914 Stutz Bearcat. This is an interesting one because Monty Burns from The Simpsons owns a Bearcat, but it's actually a later model. It's a 1934 model. So when I was first researching this, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe Mr. Burns has a freaking like car from the 1910s. But turns out it's from the 30s. Still pretty old, especially considering that The Simpsons is set in like the 90s. Or you know what? It's a floating timeline. So it's also set in the 2020s right now. But yeah, so that's the Stutz Bearcat. We also have the 1916 Pierce Arrow Model 48. I believe that might be this one. I think both of these are the same model. Yeah, they both say Pierce on them. Yeah. And then this last one is a 1919 Rolls-Royce Springfield Silver Ghost. Very fancy, especially because, you know, it's a Rolls-Royce. So yeah, take a look at the fenders here. It's way more like covered, shiny. Not only do you have a step, but you also have a treasure box? Question mark? So yeah. So when it comes to cars like these, look at the engine and how it's connected to the rest of the carriage and the fenders. The fenders are kind of like a big giveaway in terms of like what time period this car might be from. So yeah. That is cars of the 1910s, and we are pretty much done with our decade study of the 1910s. So now is the time that we can test our knowledge. But you know what, first let me make sure that we don't have any incoming raids. There we go, shut that off. But alright, we now have studied all the way from the 1900s to the 2010s. The last decade that we have not studied yet, because we're living it, is the 2020s, and that'll be 2 weeks from now. But with that under our belt, let's go ahead and test our knowledge, shall we? Through, you know, Binka logic, we should be masters at this game right now. But sometimes it gets kind of tricky, right? It gets kind of tricky. So let's see what we got here. So, okay, wait, is this the, oh my god, it's your grand old flag. Da, 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 na, na, da, na, 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 da, 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 da. Grand old flag, you're a high flying flag. All right. So, a lot of the men here have longer hair. I want to say this is post 1960s, maybe even 70s. Location-wise, I'm not too sure where. I'm thinking maybe Europe because of the amount of, you know, phenotypically European-looking people here. There's also, this looks like a giant music box, doesn't it? Like, doesn't it look like it's playing some kind of like music box song? Oh wait, we have some text. Hotel L'Opera. Mayhaps Paris? Shall we try Paris, France, 19... Let's do 69, because I'm not sure if it's like maybe 60s or 70s. Or 1970. We'll put it there. We were 5 years off. And it is in France, but it's not in Paris. So this is Toulouse Mayor Pierre Baudy playing a barrel organ before a crowd in Place du Capitole during a Christmas television broadcast in Toulouse, France. Cool. All right, what's this one? A cafe, obviously France again. Obviously. Oh, look at these cars. Ooh, look at the big old fenders and the vertical grille. I think this might be the 30s. Maybe the 40s. Cafe. Rocky Mountain. Okay. Somewhere in the Rockies. Yeah, here's the Rockies. So maybe Montana? Maybe Wyoming? This is real. Hotel, the best cafe, Budweiser. Labor Day. This is looking, I kind of want to say 30s. Let's say 35. Although this could also be 40s. Let's actually put it more towards 30, like 39. 38. That's fine too. Rocky Mountains. What does this say? The something Urton Standard Lishers? Silverton, Colorado? Oh, the Rockies do go a little bit into Colorado. Silverton, Colorado. San Juan County. Huh. Where in Colorado would that be? I'm actually not sure. Southern Ute Reservation. San Juan County. We could do Denver, right? Because that's just like a big city in the middle of Colorado. No, actually, we are starting to encounter a couple more like Spanish names here. Maybe Pueblo? Pueblo West? Now let's try Denver. Let's try Denver. Denver 1938. Nice! 2 years off. So this is Silverton, Colorado during a Labor Day celebration. We didn't get too far off. That's pretty good. Okay, where are we now? I'm not sure I recognize this flag. Maybe Portugal? Maybe Portugal? Hello, Twisty. Hello, hello. We're playing Time Guesser. We're near the tail end of stream, but we're testing our knowledge of Time Guesser. Not as many hats. Let's see. Oh, wait. This woman over here, she kind of has the hat that you would see in a lot of kind of like South American indigenous communities. So maybe Peru? Or Chile? Something Pedito? Banco Pedito, maybe? Oh, here. Banco de Credito. Ah, okay. So bank credit. I don't recognize the flag though, unfortunately. Cause like I want to say like Peru, but it could also be like maybe Chile, maybe even. Now I know what the Argentinian flag looks like actually. Let's try Chile. Let's try Santiago. Do you know the flag? I don't know why like I'm blanking. I'm blanking for some reason on this. I feel like I usually am pretty good on my flags, but this time, no. The only reason I know the Argentinian flag is because they keep on freaking winning. Why? In England versus Argentina, who do you even root for? Like, who do you even root for though? Well, now it's Spain versus Argentina, right? Which is like, you think it's a hard decision because of Benin? Is it Benin? Wow, I can't. Like, can you imagine seeing like the Anthropium little like, oh my god, it's Benin. They're like walking and everything. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so you think it's a hard decision between Spain and Argentina because like, oh, you have the colonizer versus the people we don't like, like the non-Latin Americans. But it's like, you know what? I'm gonna say Spain. I'm gonna say Spain. Because yeah, they colonized us and like irreparably like damaged like indigenous communities and stuff, but at least they give you Spanish what is it, like citizenship because of that. Like, did you guys know that if you're from a country that was formerly colonized by Spain, I think you could like become a resident in Spain and become like a citizen. And it's like, is this reparations, I guess? Also, hello, Erase Struck. Hello. We're at the tail end of things, but we're testing our knowledge on Time Guesser. I want to say it's Chile, but I'm also getting hints in the chat that mayhaps this is a country that starts with B, but maybe not Benin. Oh, Bolivia! I'm gonna believe you. Let's say it's La Paz. Year-wise, I feel like this might be 80s. I don't know, something about the fashion feels kind of 80s-ish. But let's say like late 80s. Let's say 88. 10 years off, it's 1998. And it was La Paz. Thank you for the help. That's cool. Thank you. This is a street scene in La Paz, Bolivia during the late 90s. 10 years apart. Okie dokie. Round 4. Let's see, where is this? I'm seeing a lot of like European looking people. We got some folks in wheelchairs racing. There's people like racing. Oh wait, that flag, is that Poland? Or Indonesia? Actually, yeah, looking at the like the C followed by the Z, maybe this is Poland. What does this say? The WY at the end also kind of makes me think this is Poland. Maybe it's Krakow. Oh no, Warsaw. Warsaw. Let's say Warsaw. Look at all those balding white guys in Indonesia. I mean, that would work so much better if it was like the flag of the Philippines that was like an inverted version of Poland, because it's like a bunch of balding white guys in the Philippines. I could see it. Like, it has those weird lines crossing the letters, so I also believe it's Poland. Yeah, right? Right? Oh, you're right, it does. Now, year-wise, I feel like this might be... We said 80s last time, but it turned out to be the 90s. So this could be the 80s or 70s. Because I'm seeing, like, longer hair on the dudes. That's usually, like, the indicator, right? Maybe this is early 80s. 87, it was late 80s. So this is runners, including wheelchair competitors, set off from the 10th anniversary stadium, Stadion Ciciecilosia? I butchered that. I apologize, but I attempted. In Warsaw during the International Warsaw Peace Marathon, and it was the 80s. Cool, cool, cool. Last round. Ooh, this looks European. By Ramines? Mubarak? Wait. Wait, that's Cyrillic. Oh, Turkmenistan. It says like Menistan. That has to be Turkmenistan, right? I mean, phenotypically kind of looks like it too, because in like Central Asia, you get folks that look like they could either be like white Russian, but you also get people that look like they could be like more East Asian. So, because here's Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan. So let's say Turkmenistan. What is the capital? Is it this one, Ashgabat? Cool that there's a city named Mary. Cool name. Ashgabat? It's just Menistan? There's no Womenistan. Dang. We can never win. We can never win. Let's say Turkmenistan. A time? I'm not sure time period wise. Is there maybe something that can help us out here? I feel like you would have to know a little bit of the history of like Turkmenistan to be like, oh yeah, this is during the, you know, that one event, that one festival. You know the one. This guy's mogging the camera. Look at this guy. He's freaking... It's like you're just looking at this like cool scene of like, you know, culture, festivity, and then it's just like, what are you doing here? I know what I'm doing here. What are you doing here? Can't believe we're getting mogged by someone from like, I want to say... We already got the 90s. Should we say... Let's say the 2000s. Let's say 2000s. Nice! That was a guess, because we already got a guess from the 60s, 80s, 70s? No, I don't think we got any from the 70s. And the 90s. So, I lucked out there. Very nice. Final score. Nice! We got into the 40K. We did it. We didn't get anything from the 1910s, but maybe that was for the best. Maybe that was for the best. But alrighty. Posting my score. I didn't do connections. Did it reset already? I think I still have time, right? I'm not gonna do it on stream, but we will mosh. We will mosh. I don't know what we're moshing to. But you guys are just in time for the mosh pit. All you gotta do is, I'm gonna play some music. I've been listening to this on repeat, by the way. That's why it's always popping up. We're gonna go ahead and mosh. All you gotta do is, I think we're gonna listen to Digimon. Once you hear the music, I'm gonna mosh pit. We're going to, yeah, once you hear the music, go ahead and start spamming your favorite emotes in the chat, and I'm gonna make your little stream avatars at the bottom there fight each other. There's no correlation between who wins the mosh pit and who spams the most emotes. It's RNG, and it's not rigged. So once you hear the music, get to moshing. Let's turn off the 1910s. And bring in the 2000s. Let's do it. Once you hear the music, get to moshing. La 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 na 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 na. This is perfect moshing music. La 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 la. You'll see. You'll see that it's perfect moshing music. Na 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 na. When the guitar comes in, man. Yeah. Let's go. It was Twisty that won the mosh pit. See, I'm telling you it's not rigged. I'm telling you. But, you know what we do have? Is time. We have time for another round. To break up, I thought a she fighter. It's time to go. Bam, wow, wow, wow. Alright, I know who we're going to raid into. Hopefully they're gonna keep going for a while. But yeah. Oh no! It's not rigged! It's not! Wait, how much time do we have? It's not rigged. It's not. It's just... Sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. Well, well, well. Whale, whale, whale. It's time to go. POV, the teacher's telling you to get into the bus. It's time to go. Rigged emote. Good emote idea. How should I make that? A Tanashi fighter. Make to break up a Tanashi power. See, it's not rigged. Array struck. Congrats. You proved that it's not rigged. You proved it. Nice. And we're gonna go ahead and end off there by proving it's not rigged. It's time to go. It's time to get on the bus. It's time to get on the bus. Alright guys, thanks for tuning in. Once again, it's always so much fun to do these decade studies. It's fun to research them, it's fun to pull them off, it's fun to discuss them with you guys, and it's fun to see if we get better at time guesser, and I feel like we are. I feel like we are. So we're gonna go ahead and raid into a friend of mine. He is not a VTuber, he is a flesh tuber. He is streaming, he has a face cam on and everything, but he's a buddy of mine. He's an IRL friend of mine. His name is Peanut. This is Gallivant Peanut. So he's currently playing Mouse PI for Hire, which is a cool FPS where it's like Mickey Mouse rubber hose style. So very cool. Thank you, Matthew, for posting the raid message. I don't know why it's so finicky. It like never posts the like secondary message, but you know, it posts one of them. Thank you for putting that in there. So let's go ahead and start that raid. There you go. I hope you guys have a good morning, afternoon, and evening, and as always, I'll see you guys when I see you guys. Bye-bye! We raid.